What is going on, fans and coaches of the ASL? I'm Hutch, and today I have with me.
I'm Ian. What's up, everybody?
We have the Week 9 power rankings for you guys. Gumby has stepped down from the YouTube team and ultimately the ASL, so I will be taking over with Ian for the power rankings until we get a replacement. Yeah, let's go ahead and hop right into this. Go ahead and announce the 14th spot for both of us.
Yep, so we've both got Washington Wailords hosted by Cam. Honestly, he doesn't even play that badly. I'm not 100% sure what is going on with him. He's definitely improved his draft since. It's really like he makes some mispredictions here and there, and it just adds up in the end. And for a player who's really reliant on predictions rather than the execution of a game plan, that's really been the detriment, I feel. But I'm not sure how it's translating to such poor performance, honestly. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
yeah, I agree with that. The biggest things to look at in the draft league players, how they prep, how they draft, and how they play. Cam is not bad at play. He can make plays when he needs to, and he makes predictions. Yeah, like you said, it's oftentimes over predictions, but I can respect the predictions nonetheless. His draft was terrible. He fixed it. It's just his prep needs to be a little bit better. He needs to bring a team that wins instead of a team that just looks good. Because I remember playing him, and the team that he brought was not set to win the game. He needs to look at what can win the game, not what can stop the team that he's facing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely this week, his Gardevoir could have put in way more work than it did because he didn't bring the right set on
Right. All right. Number 13, go ahead.
Yeah, we've both got Shadow again. He played really well with Deoxys this week compared to how it usually goes. He applied a lot of pressure and racked up some damage, but once Deoxys went down, so did the rest of the game. He did reach a situation where Lucario won because he had Vacuum Wave, but for some reason that I can't figure out, he chose to not click that move versus the Weavile. He needs to work on his game plan. I feel he can prep pretty well. Sometimes it's a bit iffy, but he comes up with some good stuff. But he just doesn't have the solid game plan set, I don't feel.
Yeah, he has good preparation in mind. Like when he was playing TJ, he brought Circle Throw Lucario for the Cloister. I really like that set. It's just Shadow's a tough player to figure out because when I'm watching in game, I'm most of the time confused by why he's clicking certain moves. Not to put anything
Yeah,
against you,
same.
Shadow. I'm just kind of confused most of the time, but maybe it's that I'm not getting what he's trying to do because he does think outside the box. Like he brought a physical Suicune one time. I forget what it
He's
was to
got
stop.
some.
Yeah, he's gotten some really heat sets, but it's the fact that he's come into the league and I think he's only won one game, if I'm not
Uh,
mistaken,
yeah, one
yeah,
game.
because Rocker had already won one game before him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just the fact that Static has earned two wins. You could say he only earned one because the match against TCP was Tier B only, but it's two wins and Shadow's gotten one, so that's the big difference there.
yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so for the number 12 spot, we both have the inner melodic, and I'll go ahead and talk about it first. So I have Static down here, and it goes back to the fact that Static has more wins than Cam and Shadow, but I've seen Static play so much better in the past. Last season he was 8-5, and the previous season he was 9-4. So it's really sad to see Static at a 2-7 record. But his team is not the greatest, to be honest. His team is nothing that I would ever want to use. Not trying to be harsh, but I don't know. Maybe it works for him, but I just haven't really see him perform as well as I've seen him play in the past.
Yeah, I think his draft is definitely a big detriment to him. I don't think he's actually happy with it from what I've seen. His prep and play was pretty solid, I guess, but once he got in the Hooper, it started to become a bit questionable. He sacked Hooper and Gudra because he didn't think the Tornadoes would have knockoff, which they all run pretty much.
Yeah, most sets do.
It was pretty clear, like it was pretty clear that his game plan was to clean with Heracross, and the plays he made did make sense to achieve that, but didn't work out exactly how he wanted it, I guess.
Yeah, so our first difference in picks here, go ahead and talk about why you have the Newcastle Mets at 11.
Yeah, I've got Gumby here. He did unfortunately leave, and I understand his decision. Apparently, it's just becoming too much for him. He's causing physical injuries over it by accident. It's just, if the game's getting to that kind of point, I understand that he needs a break. But, that being said, I can't really put him above any of the other coaches who are working a lot harder and are getting the same kinds of results as he is. Um, when he forfeits his match in the end, his play was fairly subpar as well in that game. I don't think that the hacks was solely to blame. You know, it's is what it is, but I do sympathize, but I can't put him higher.
Yeah, like he was mad about a sludge bomb, which has the same chance to poison as a skull does to burn. So I mean,
Mm.
it is what it is. So I at 11 I have the Zagreb Zangooses, and when Marin took over this team, the team was 4-3. Now it's 4-5. He's gone 0-2. I'm not saying his schedule's been easy at all. He played you and Keister, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
and those are not easy games. Those are both playoffs teams. Obviously, you're undefeated, and Keister's 5-4. So I'm not trying to put anything against him. Um, it's just he hasn't gotten a win yet, and I can't justify putting him anywhere but the bottom if you are 0-2 starting out in the league.
yeah, that's fair. At number 10, we both have the St. Louis Swablues, coached by Malone. He's finally broken onto the second screen, which is great to see, and he's showing definite signs of improvement this week. The first half of the game, I'll admit, I had no idea what he was like going for. He was making some definitely questionable plays with the Mega Aggron, but after Hooper set up, he definitely got into the swing of things. What pushed him up for me was definitely the Tenga Barry Cresselia to take on the Heracross. That was really strong prep, and I think it's definitely a sign of improvement down the line.
Yeah, the thing about Malone is what I've noticed is he kind of just brings basic sets. And like you said, the Tanga Crest was a very big play. And now that he's sitting at 3-6, he's technically not out of playoffs. If he wins the rest of his games, he's sitting at 7-6 and can make a playoff spot. And I'm starting to see some signs of like early season 2 Malone, like he started off like 3-1 or something. Hopefully he doesn't fall into his mid-season season 2 because that went downhill. But I'm seeing improvement from Malone. And I like the knockoff play into Hoopa was huge to bring the match back for him.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and talk about these Greb Zengus in number 9.
Yeah, he is 0-2, like you said. But honestly, my game against him was probably the most scared I was to lose at all. He still did lose, so I can't put him higher because his play was not up to standard with his prep. His prep is phenomenal. He comes with really out of the box stuff which catches his opponents off guard, and he definitely was in a winning position, but he did, instead of making the correct plays, he sacked his Metacham and didn't switch out of his Doublade when he could have won. And, I can't put you up there just because you could have won. You've got to actually win your game.
Yeah, the end game is as important as the start of the game. But number 9, I have the Newcastle Mets, and while they did get 6-0, it was because they forfeited. So I don't really want to put them any higher. 4-5 down there seems fair to me. But yeah, Gumby's team is good. Like Cody's coming in to take over Gumby. So I have a feeling with Cody taking over this team, he's gonna soar in numbers. Um, Cody's a phenomenal coach. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about Gumby. It's just yeah, like you said, his plays were not that great. He was letting his Kyurem get poisoned, which I don't agree with. I would try and get free swap ins to Kyurem so you don't have to risk the hacks. But I don't like Sludge Bomb was doing more than a substitute anyways, so I don't get why Gumby was playing so aggressive with his Kyurem as it was a win con and he did pay the price for it.
His Kyurem was Roost, by the way. I helped him prep for that, but
Ah,
I think his plan was to try to roost off the damage, which he could have done, but it still wasn't really a good idea. I don't think it was too risky.
yeah, you can't risk win cons like that. Even if it does
Mm.
have roost, you gotta make sure.
Yeah.
All right, so at number 8, we both have the Utah Hoots. So I went ahead and I put the Utah Hoots here because they're showing signs of improvement. Not enough to get them into the yellow category, but Susie has had ups and downs this season. He started off really nicely, then he lost a fair amount of games that put him at this 4 and 5 spot. He won this week 4-0, but it was only over the Washington Wailords. And since they're the 14th spot, I can't put Susie up that high. But I can definitely see him making a playoff run. It's just he actually has to execute it and win like 3 to 4 more games.
Yeah. Between Susie and Ian, it was really close to me. He played well with solid prep, if we're to overlook the sheer force flame charge. But, he didn't really make any misplays. I would say that switching in Scizor into the Mega Gardevoir at the very end was like an unnecessary risk because he could have gotten HP fired, he could have gotten crit, and then he could have lost the game. But that didn't happen. The rest of the game was played really well, so not a lot to say about that. It's just the gap is so small anyway. It's enough to push him slightly lower than Ian for me.
Yeah, and we both have Ian at 7, and the gap is between 8 and 7. It's basically the same thing. But reason being that I put Ian above Susie was just because Ian's on a 2-game winning streak right now, which I feel like I've seen Ian do this before in the ASL. Like he starts off subpar and then just makes a push for the playoffs at the end. And I'm thinking Ian's a definite playoff contender at this point. His team's good. He's mixed it around a lot. He picked up a threat like Weavile, and Weavile is good on any team in my opinion. And Ian's team is there's some holes that he probably should have patched before he got rid of all of his free agents, but he's been playing well lately, so I do like him at the 7 spot.
Yeah, ever since he got Weavile, he hasn't actually lost a game, and I can see that trend continuing all the way through the rest of the season. He's got so much momentum right now, and he's very comfortable using that Pokemon, and he looks a lot more comfortable using his team in general. Um, he prepped well, played well. The game was a bit closer than Susie's game, but it was against an arguably better opponent with an arguably harder matchup, although, once again, not much to differentiate on. So, can't say a lot there either.
All right, go ahead and talk about the 6th spot.
We've got both got Phoenix Flygons, coached by Keister here. Forfeit loss to TCP was very disappointing to see. Would have been a very good game. They're both top playoff contenders, but alas, we do not get to see that. He has a better record than all of the coaches below him, so I can't place him any lower than 6. But I can't place him higher when you ended up getting a forfeit loss. You got to play your games.
Yeah, if it was me in that position, I would honestly rather be 6-0 than take a forfeit loss because it just doesn't look good to have a forfeit loss. It shows that you weren't as involved in the league, and Keister's been a part of 2 forfeits, whether he won them or whether he lost them. It just we can't base anything off of it. We have to base previous matches off to it. And Keister started off like 5-2 or 5-1 or whatever the heck it is, and now he's like 5-4. So it sucks that we can't base the ranking off of anything. So we'll just go ahead and put him at 6 for now.
Yeah. Number 5, we've got a different opinion. Why don't you talk about why you put yourself here?
Okay, so I put myself at 5. So obviously me and TJ played this week, and I think TJ should have won that game 6-0. His Jirachi would have won the game if I didn't crit him with the Dark Z on from the Thundurus, and that's basically the only reason that I put him over me. But like you said earlier, you gotta win the games, but that was kind of taken right out of TJ's hands. But I am making a strong push to the playoffs. I'm 6-3 now. Started off 1-3, so I'm definitely think there's something to be said about a 5-game win streak.
Yeah, that's like a big reason why I put you above TJ, even though TJ was also on a win streak before your game. It's unfortunate that he did get hacked in the way that he did, but you've still got 5 Pokemon. You still could have done something afterwards, but you didn't. Unfortunately, win that. There was a crit on the Latias as well on top of that,
That
which
was
made him
important.
lose his Lopunny counter, which I'll agree that I think he probably should have won that game, but sometimes you just got to look at the numbers and see who's got the better chance of making it into playoffs, and right now the answer is you.
Yeah, I can see what you mean, but like I just explained, I put TJ here, and both of myself and TJ, we have a clear path to the playoffs. We're already in a playoff spot right now. We just got to maintain it. And TJ has creative sets, like you were talking about Marin having creative sets. TJ has some amazing sets as well. I pointed out like the Refresh Cloyster. He brought the Calm Mind Cosmic Power Jirachi. He brought a Z Trick Jirachi. I forget what other set he's brought. He's brought the sub Iapapa Embor. Well, he brought it in this game. He just makes phenomenal prep decisions and has crazy off the wall prep that actually works.
And he's also got really optimized EVs. Like the Embor was apparently spec to live 2 Psyshocks from the Slow King, as well as a Thunderbolt from Thunderous or something after Rocks. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like he puts a lot of time into making sure his prep is perfect, and it does show. I don't blame you for not having prepped an answer to Cosmic Power Jirachi, other than a crit.
All right, so number 3, we both have the heart for Whalmers, and basically it goes back to Keister. Keister's reasoning, I don't really fault him for this. It's not his fault. It's just we can't base it off of anything, and he lost in the previous week. He did get the forfeit win, so I guess that's something. But it comes down to who played better this week, and the teams in the 1 and 2 spot played better because they actually played a match.
Yeah. They're so neck and neck between TCP and the number 2 spot. It's just hard to say whether TCP would have won or lost versus Keister as well. It wasn't an obvious game either. So I'll give it to Brad, even though Brad's technically was also a forfeit. He got to actually play to force a forfeit. So there's a bit of a difference there.
Yeah. So, jumping into number 2, like you said, Anderson forced a forfeit, which is pretty impressive nonetheless. And
Yeah, for sure.
it was a 6-0, so it just helps his differential. So basically, all we can base the game off of is how much it helps him towards playoffs. He got a 6-0 win. TCP got a 4-0 win. So that's really what it comes down to. They're both 7 and 2, and they are both basically a lock for playoffs at this point.
Yeah, you got to give props to someone who gives Amoongus 5 kills.
Even if they are forfeit kills, that's still impressive.
Yeah, it's still impressive. It's Amoongus.
Dude, Amoongus is a legend. Alright, so go ahead and talk about why you put yourself at number 1.
Well, naturally, as the only undefeated team, while the next highest team have got 2 losses, there's not really much of an argument to say that I'm not at the number 1 spot. I will say that the game versus Marin was a lot closer than I'd have liked. I made a slip of judgment, not knowing that no guard allowed you to hit dig, but Marin also made a slip of judgment in not switching out, so I still was able to clinch out the win. But even if I did lose that game, I probably still would have put myself at first because I still would have had a better record than the below teams.
Yeah, I mean it speaks for itself. You have 1,000% win percentage. You're 9-0, and there's no reason to put you any lower. You haven't done anything wrong,
Yeah.
and you can't even say like, oh, well, you haven't beaten any good teams. You've beaten a fair amount of the playoff teams, so that argument isn't a thing. You have a pretty good differential for 9-0, and you clinched the playoffs, and I don't see how you could be anywhere below the first place. You are the only team to have clinched playoffs.
The only argument that's been used in the past is the fact that TCP has pretty much the same differential as I do, and now so does Brad. So I'm not getting as dominative of wins, but I don't think that matters as much as other people might think.
I would take a better record over a better differential any day of the week.
Mm.
All right, so go ahead and take us out.
Well, everyone, thanks for watching Week 9 Power Rankings. I'm Ian. It's been great having you, Hutch.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next week. Hopefully, we'll be able to get someone more stable to keep the position. But otherwise, I'm sure Hutch will be happy to come back.
Oh, yeah. All
See
right.
ya.
Sweet. See ya.